Greetings, everybody. It's Jim, and today I'm glad to be able to talk to you about one of my favorite movies of all time, Krull. And, I was 13 years old when this came out, adolescent, and it's got that great balance with action, adventure, and yet it's a little bit darker. And at 13 years old, you can, at an adolescent age, you can appreciate things like that. When I hear people taking reviews of this movie, they're like almost pushing 30 years old, and I gotta ask them, it's like, are you really looking at this at the eyes of a younger person? It's like, of course you're gonna blow it away. I don't think a person that's above 21 can appreciate. It's the age of wonder and such that you just can't get. Now you show this to a 13-year-olds, and I think it would be a different story. Great, like I said, action adventure, good storyline. Seems like everybody's got that one little story. Everybody, like Krull is one of my favorite stories, the big giant, of how he can see his own death, and the storyline about what things happen to him because of it. Of course, Corwin has the main story of having to save the princess and all that. But even the blind seer, and of course Urgo the Magnificent, the wizard, is just a fun character. And then even all the bandits. And I found out all their names in the cast, and you never hear them, you barely hear them, but they're there. And what did I do with that? Well, if you've seen any of my posts on the fantasy trip, by the way, this is a great idea for the fantasy trip because it has that mesh between fantasy and science fiction. It's got maybe 15% science fiction that knocks it right off course as far as what you're expecting, which is nice, just a little bit. If you want to subvert expectations, that's how you do it, just a little bit. And because most of the swords and sorcery back then were just purely that, and science fiction was purely that. And this has a little twist in there, and it really makes it nice. But, so anyway, I think that works perfect for the game, The Fantasy Trip, role-playing game by Steve Jackson Games, which if you haven't played before, you absolutely should. See one of my videos about why you should be playing The Fantasy Trip. Because the world of Seedry in The Fantasy Trip is really big, and it's got its swords and sorcery, but there is this apocalyptic backstory about technology and everything that's hidden away. And it's a big part of it. And I think it's one of the first role-playing games I think that really push that objective. Now, I know everybody's wondering, hey Jim, how are you going to tie this into the Fantasy Trip? After all, it is in the title, right? The Fantasy Trip role-playing game. Well, this is how I've done it. Now, this is through Tabletop Simulator. If you don't have that program or familiar with it, it's a program where you can play board games against friends from all across the globe. And I do have a kit for a game for the Fantasy Trip, the Melee part of the Fantasy Trip, the battle game, that is for free. And by the way, if you just want to read the rules in general, you can download that as well, the PDF. Steve Jackson released that, and all the links are down below. Now, the only bad thing is, as far as this scenario goes, I can't release it because Krull is an intellectual property and I don't have the permission to do so. But I can show you what I've done. Basically, I've got the entire Battle of the Swamp here. All the people are right here as they appear. There's these three. These three guys right here. Might be off because I couldn't. It's grainy footage, and it's only microseconds that you see them. And I don't know. But the thing is, they all do have names on IMDb, and I've used all of them. Nenog, you've heard of Torquil, but then there's Nenog, the guy, then there's Bardolph, Rooney Hero, Darrow, Menno, I think you do hear Oswin's name, Quain, the bowman. But they're all there, and so you can have this battle. Now, what I like about the Fantasy Trip is so easy to just make characters and just go. You can have a battle really quickly. And thanks to Steve Jackson on his way to be efficient, it comes from his historical wargaming background. It's just great. If you did this with any other role-playing game, I bet I would have been there for another hour or two just making characters. Right? This is just boom, boom, boom. So the Slayers javelin for 2 shots. They have those little magic javelins, shooters. And I just called them a javelin. And then afterwards, it's a non-throwable spear. And they have kite and armor. It takes 2 hits of damage. But I'm thinking about calling it 1, depending on how the scenarios go. Just because in the movie, it wasn't that effective. They never are in movies, though, aren't they? You can have the biggest, baddest armor in the world. And, it's like Stormtrooper armor. It's just inefficient. Its bark is smaller than its bite. But that's the idea. And I got... Krull, the giant over here. So I really like how this came out. It was really nice, and I got the trees and everything. But anyway, that's my video for Krull. I'm glad that you've watched it, and if you want to play this game with me, I can't upload it to you or anything like that, but maybe you can contact me and we'll have a game. All right? So I'll see you guys next video.